Okay, I am approaching what will be a familiar sight for the next few months, which is Sean watering the garden beds. We finally planted all of our cold weather crops that could fit in our first beds. Sorry for all the debris everywhere. We've had a lot of wind. So those beds are planted. And then our potato beds, we are doing an experiment. So these are our potato beds that we showed in a different video. They've all been planted out with the potatoes. And then on the sides of the potato beds, the potatoes are planted down the middle. And then on this bed, they're actually planted along one side as well. So we're gonna see, does this one give us more potatoes, or is there a difference if we plant along the sides as well as in the middle? And this one is just along the middle. And then we also heard that these particular plants can do well with potatoes because they don't share the same root system, so they shouldn't deplete each other of nutrients. So we've top dressed these beds with some compost, and then all in the sides here you can see on these sides and then along these sides we've planted some crops that can take up quite a bit of space, but we're hoping that they will go and play well with potatoes. So this is a experiment. So there's some purple cabbage, there's a couple different types of white cabbage, there's 2 different types of kale, kohlrabi, and broccoli, and cauliflower, and chives, and cilantro. I forgot. So they're planted about every 2 feet apart on the sides here, so that they should give each other some room as they're growing. And we don't have like an automatic watering system set up yet, although I'm sure we're going to be wishing we did. We just can't do that just yet. But this has actually been very, very helpful for keeping the chickens out of this garden space, because they'll come right in here knowing that there's worms, and they'll scratch all the compost right off the top of your garden beds, and then they will also uproot all your plants. So we don't want the chickens in here, and we don't want them over there. So we had a couple of these Premier One fences that we've used a lot on our property, and they were really helpful for keeping them out so far. How's it going there, Farmer Sean?
Going good.
Sean and I work well together because Sean likes to water and he likes to weed, right?
I will.
And I don't. I dislike that part. I'm lazier than him, so we work well together. I do like to plant and I love to harvest, but he does the real discipline and hard work of all the day-to-day stuff. Super helpful. So we'll see how these do, and I'll let you know as the season goes on how this progresses. So that's one thing we've got going on in our garden. You can see that in the other video we talked about taking these chicken tractors and moving them over this area of our ground to get all of this grass cut down really low, and letting the chickens fertilize it one more time before we did a Ruth Stout garden bed in this area. And you can see that they've moved all the way back from where they were forward, and they cleared all this grass down for us, gave it one more dose of their fertilizer, and now they're ready to go out into the front pasture. So they're going to be doing that. They will come through this area, which is kind of a mess right now, but they'll come right out here, and then we'll pull them out onto the pasture where they left off last, well, fall, winter, and they are getting ready to move out. Hey there, ladies. They've also started laying more eggs for us. We have to take off the winter covering and probably replace that tarp. But they've held up really well, these particular tractors. And these are the John Siskovich style tractors. And then the only problem is that all of our other chickens we let out daily. These guys get moved every day. onto fresh grass. But when we let them out, the chickens come back, but the guineas are a lot trickier to get back. So I think we lost one the last time, but there were a few that didn't come back for a couple of days, and they'd kind of just fly all over and hop the neighbor's fence, and then they couldn't figure out how to get back. And so that was kind of a pain because they're here to really benefit our land. So they're getting fresh pasture every day, but I don't know how they're going to do when we let them out in the field, if we're just going to end up losing the guineas. This is the other thing we did this week is Sean moved our leaf corral to this area, which is like closer to our driveway, so that we can pull up and just put the leaves right in there. And then we're trying something different where he set up 2 compost areas in the middle of the leaf corral to be able to rotate the compost, but also the leaves. This is not for making leaf mold, which is actually what I thought he was originally doing, but it's not. It's so that during the year when he has an overabundance of green matter, nitrogen, that he's able to utilize the leaves that he's stored up and layer his compost bins with carbon. So that's what that's there for, so that he can just keep working on his compost. And then we have to get a new tarp for this, but this is like a big thing that we have of topsoil, and we just need to clean this area out. There's always projects on the homestead. And then we finished going through, I think that was a ton of worm castings that got added to our garden, and we have more coming. We also have all the compost from when our chickens were here in this area that we're letting age, and then we will be utilizing all this material in our gardens as well. And something else that we've been doing, okay, so we have all this green grass in our garden area. This is where we'll eventually do like our tomatoes and peppers here. But we are in the process of weaning our dairy calf from her mother, which has been really helpful for having a lot more milk products coming in. But when her mom was too close to her, she hopped the fence at one point and tried to get to her. So we've been keeping her over in this area of one of our smaller pastures, over near the chicken coop. And she's been doing really well over here, and we feed her over here. But, you know, there's really not a lot of grass in this space. And one of the things we do is rotational grazing. So we don't like leaving the animals in one area for too long, and we'd like this spot to be able to recover. Hey, Molly. She's tied up right now just because we're halter training her, so we try to give her some practice from time to time. But this is the area that we'd really like to recover. Hello, Bosco. This is our little livestock guardian dog pup, and he's tethered and being trained in the chicken coop area with Gus. And so Gus has been with him all day, and they've been doing good. Actually, they've been doing excellent. You trying to get my attention? Yeah. Are you such a good boy? Are you He's a very good boy. He's grown a lot in a short period of time. He's finding his voice, and he's getting a lot of exposure to wherever we are with all the animals. Bosco, such a good boy. I know, you're such a good boy. I'll be back for you soon. So anyhow, we want to give Molly some more area to graze, so we're going to actually fence off this area as soon as the chicken tractors are out of here, and give her access to all of this green grass because we're not planting in it yet. And then we'll just fence off our garden space so that she can graze all this down. And then we have another spot we're going to be putting her in. And then we've also been using our pigs to clear this part of our garden, and they've been doing a great job. So they already cleared these sections, and then we reseeded them with oats and field peas, because we're going to graze them one more time before we plant. We'll actually bring the sheep up here after the oats and field peas come up, and they'll come up here with their lambs. And so we've been using cattle panels and electric fencing to keep our pigs in here. And these pigs actually will not root up as badly as they are here if we moved them more frequently. But we're leaving them a little bit longer to clear this space and get it prepped for our garden, and so that we can experiment with putting seed in and using pigs as fertilizer, and to help us seed an area when we have to get the seed into the ground. Hello, ladies. So they've been doing really good, and they are a different type of pig than we had in the past, and we've really been enjoying them. And then tomorrow, they'll probably be in here tomorrow to clear out this one last area, and then they'll move over here to this space. And I'll do a video soon to kind of show you how we set up these areas for them. And it's pretty quick and seems to work well so far for holding them into that space. And then they'll finish clearing out any of the space here that is green and prep it for our garden. We'll seed it, and then we'll bring our sheep in about a month or so and let them graze it down one more time before we get ready for what we're going to be planting here. So a lot of this is experimental because last year we didn't do a garden. We just were working on our infrastructure, and we had a lot of repairs to do, and we were getting animals and working on our livestock and setting up our rotational grazing systems and stuff. So that was a very busy year, and we just didn't have time to do a garden. But so these are some of the things that we're experimenting with this year in our garden space, and that have been working well, but we'll update you as things go. So half of our garden is ready with cold weather crops, and we'll cover our last beds tomorrow, because this should keep out the chickens and the cats and the rabbits. And then we have this whole other half of our garden that we still need to finish putting in, and we'll be putting in hugelkultur beds in the middle. This big blue bucket that's there, and some of the debris is actually full of like compost tea, and that's been really working out well so far in the garden. Very easy natural fertilizer. So that's it. That's what we've got going on so far, and I hope everyone's doing well, and depending on where you are in the world, in the country, getting ready to put in your spring gardens, or maybe not, depending on where you are seasonally. So this will be our first year seeing how we do in the Missouri Ozarks. And we'll see how this works out. Potatoes with kale, cabbage, broccoli, chives, cilantro, cauliflower. Hopefully it works out. And this is a really prolific bed. Did you finish watering, babe?
That's it.
All right, great. Like, subscribe, and share to Full and Family Farm.